Mesut Ozil, an unbelievably talented number 10. Since joining Arsenal back in 2013, his first 5 years in the Premier League brought a whole bunch of assists, 50 in fact. With his deft touch, his brilliant passing and his fantastic vision, it's no wonder he has been a fulcrum of everything good Arsenal have done. However, in the last few months, things haven't looked so rosy for the German. Some say it's his attitude, some say Unai Emery doesn't fancy him as a player, but for me, it's because that he's been left behind by modern football. The number 10 position that Özil so desperately loves just isn't really that popular anymore, so I don't really think he's going to get that much game time. Why am I making such an outrageous claim? Well, that's what I'm here to discuss, and how I think football has changed and why Özil may not be fitting in at teams like Arsenal. I'll be bringing that to you in the next few minutes, so let's get straight into it. First off, I want to dig a little deeper tactically into Özil's position, the number 10 role, which, as I mentioned, is becoming pretty obsolete. So let's look at it this way. The number 10 area pretty much is on the edge of the opposition's box. So if we were to place Mesut Ozil right there, he'd be in the exact position that he likes to be, where he can thread passes through. However, the problem is there's limited space. If Özil moves too high up the pitch, he's going to come into contact with 2 central defenders. If he moves a little bit deeper, well, there's going to be 2 or potentially 3 central midfielders to deal with. So along with the 5 defenders in there, also the striker on Özil's team and 2 central midfielders potentially backing him up, there could be around 8 or 9 of the 20 outfield players within a small section of the pitch. This means that the creative outlet, which is generally what the number 10 is in every single team, is moving backwards. It's moving to where there's more room on the field. For example, in Italy and Spain, the creative position is more often than not the number 6. Now, I'm not saying that English players don't play with a deep line playmaker, but it's something that's been around on the continent for much longer. Just when you think of Spain, look at the likes of Guardiola, Xavi Alonso, Busquets, and even now Thiago. All of those guys sit deeper so they can dictate the play where there's much more room. If you look at Italian football, for example, they've taken it one step further and their creative forces even further back. The likes of Baresi, Costa Curta, Nesta and Maldini were all fantastic passers of the ball. Nowadays, Bonucci fills that role excellently for Juventus, so there aren't too many people crowded further up the field. The obvious problem with being further up the field where there's little space is that you get less time on the ball, your first touch has to be perfect, and you're often involved in physical battles. Something which, if you've ever watched Mesut Ozil play, is definitely not his forte, and this brings me on to my second point. It's the athleticism of the German. Now, when I talk about his athleticism, or lack of, I also want to compare it to 2 other players who have overcome this issue in the likes of David Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, both at Manchester City. First off, you'll see the similarities between them and Mesut Ozil in the traditional number 10. They're often quite small, very fragile, and not necessarily the strongest players. They haven't got the lightning speed you see in wingers or the big brutishness that you see in a massive target man. So when it comes to tough tackling defensive midfielders or hard-hitting centre halves, those number 10s are going to get eaten alive. Unless you're Lionel Messi, that is, of course, but he's always and probably will be the exception to the rule. So first off, let's look at Kevin De Bruyne. Again, not necessarily the most physical of players, but can stick a foot in when need be. To counteract the problem when he faces a number 10, he's dropped deeper into midfield. If you watch Manchester City these days, he won't be as deep as the likes of Fernandinho, but he certainly prefers to stay away from the action and can play the most unbelievable passes. Where it's short, medium, or even long-range passing, Kevin De Bruyne has got it all. You can see it in the fact that he's given up a few goals to probably help the team more with the assisting and even the pre-assisting. That's the pass before the assist happens. For example, when he was at Wolfsburg and Bremen in Germany, he managed to reach double figures in 2 seasons. He's never managed to reach double figures for goals in the Premier League, and this is due to him pulling himself back a bit. As for David Silva, well, he probably has one of the best brains in modern football. And what he's done, instead of moving further backwards, has moved to the side a little bit. David Silva now occupies the half space, as it's affectionately known in football. This is the space in between the fullback and the centre-back, and in between the defensive line and the midfield line. If you watch Manchester City, you will see Silva pop up on this space, more often than not on the left wing. It's from here he can not only control the play but thread the balls through to the likes of Sane, Sterling, Mahrez, whoever City have got going forward. It's no wonder that a lot of their goals go all the way to the touchline and then are pulled back for the likes of Aguero to knock it in. If you ever watched David Silva play, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, make sure you go and watch him. It's unbelievable. But what he's done is basically avoid the physical confrontation in such a tight, compact area. I'm not saying David Silva doesn't face this, and obviously there are loads of defenders around him whenever he gets the ball. But by moving ever so slightly to the side, he gives himself a different angle. It's also much easier for him to pick up the ball from out wide rather than in the middle of the pitch. Elsewhere in the Premier League, you can also look at Christian Eriksen at Spurs. He's also dropping a little bit deeper like Kevin De Bruyne does, and Eden Hazard at Chelsea. Now with Hazard, things are a bit different because he has the speed and the skill when running with the ball to take on players, but he often picks the ball up out wide rather than in a really difficult position. When he has been told to play through the middle and drop a little bit deeper, it's no coincidence that Chelsea have struggled this season. And lastly, the reason that the teams do not play with a number 10 this season is because they're not really necessary for a pacey counter-attack. Now, I'm not saying all teams run the counter-attack, but unless you're going to dominate possession like PSG, Juventus, Man City, Barcelona, maybe one or two others, the chances are when you're a team like Arsenal or pretty much that second tier below the top teams, you're going to be looking for a quick counter-attack. It doesn't mean that you're sitting back, parking the bus and soaking up pressure, but when you do attack, it's got to be quick. This is why the new modern football has given rise to the unbelievably athletic wingers and forwards. Just look at the likes of Gareth Bale, Raheem Sterling and Ousmane Dembele. They can pick the ball up in their own half, take it 30, 40, 50 yards, beat players and finish. They can do everything, and it's something that Mesut Ozil just cannot do. If he were to take the ball more than 20 yards and come into a tussle with a defender, it's more likely than not he'll be pushed off the ball. Ozil's game revolves around quick thinking and quick passing, but he needs to be in the right position. He will definitely not be a right wing in the future because he just has not got the speed. As for dropping back and being a really deep line playmaker like De Bruyne, I don't think he's got the defensive mindset or the physical capabilities to be a defensive midfielder. So what does this actually mean for Özil? Well, before we move on as to the potential outlets and where he can go, I want to say that it's not all bad for Mesut Ozil because he's not the only one being left behind. We can look at two similar players. First off being Philippe Coutinho. Now when he was at Liverpool, one of the best number 10s in the world. He could pick up the ball from anywhere, some long range goals, fantastic through balls. He was doing everything. It's probably why Barcelona paid so much money for him. However, since going to Barcelona and finding out that they do not play with a number 10, he struggled. Is he best as a left winger? Personally, I don't think he's got the ball carrying ability that some of the other players do over 50, 60 yards. Is he good as a midfield player from deep? Again, probably not in the best position. He's best as a number 10, but Barcelona just don't play that. The same thing can be said for Isco at Real Madrid. Is he a deep playmaker like Kroos or Modric is? Yes, but not that deep. He still much prefers going forward rather than dictating things from a deeper position. Is Isco a fast winger who can take players on for 30, 40 yards? Again, much like Özil and Coutinho, no, he's not. So what does the future hold for these players and more specifically Özil? Well, one place that I can see him going is Juventus. Now, no disrespect to Serie A, but the gameplay is just not as quick and Juve really do dominate. This will give Özil the time on the ball to pick his passes, and he can also wander in and around the field to try and pick up the best positions. With players like Ronaldo up front, Özil has the freedom to move around and can then play the through balls. It almost seems that Özil is best when he plays an assisting role and not necessarily the player who carries the team. At Arsenal, you can see when the responsibility and the pressure is on his shoulders, he doesn't often do so well. For example, a few weeks ago, he was captain against Cardiff, and despite winning 2-1, that was a pretty shambolic display from Arsenal, especially against one of the league's poorer teams. The other place that he could go is to PSG. Again, much like with Juventus, they completely dominate play. However, they've got a few faster forwards. This means that Özil would have to drop a bit deeper. But if you need to look at why he could do that, just look at Angel Di Maria. Playing the supporting role, letting Mbappe, Cavani and Neymar get on with their thing has done wonders for Di Maria's career, and he's pretty much in the best form of his life at the moment. He is a year older than Mesut Ozil, so maybe Özil could fit in and maybe not necessarily replace Di Maria, but even play alongside him. With some defensive cover behind PSG, I'm sure he'll do wonders. And lastly, if you're wondering about a return to Bundesliga action for Mesut Ozil, well, it's just not going to happen. Realistically, the only two clubs that are big enough and that could afford him are Dortmund, the rivals of his former club Schalke, so that's not going to happen, and Bayern Munich, where President Uli Hoeneß definitely took the German FA side over Ozil's retirement and not his, having some choice words in the process, so I don't think Ozil's likely to go to Munich anytime soon. So lastly, there you have my recommendations for where Özil can go, because to be honest, I can't see him staying at Arsenal. They've just brought in Denis Suarez, and along with him, they've got the speed of Aubameyang, Lacazette, they've also got Iwobi, Reece Nelson's coming back in the summer, and with this fast-paced counter-attacking style, Mesut Ozil's just not going to fit in. If he wants to be a tough tackling midfielder, well, he's got a long way to go to catch up with the likes of Torreira and Guendouzi. So there you guys have it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of Mesut Ozil. Is he really being left behind by modern football, and where should he go next if he's not to stay on at Arsenal? You can let me know all these thoughts and more in the comment section down below, and you can also hit the like button whilst you're down there. Until next time, have a great day guys, and I'll see you later.